Hi guys, this is the advisor and welcome back to my channel. Now, a few days ago, I had made a previous post, the one before this, about Pastor Carlton Funderburk and how he was admonishing and berating and belittling his congregation because they did not buy him an expensive Gucci watch. Now, I had promised after that video that I would come up with another video showing how this man made his money and the methods he used to become rich. And it also exposes every single church in the United States and how they come about making their money and getting rotten rich off the backs of their congregation, of the government, of the private citizens and corporations. Now, here is how it works. Because, but first, before I even say that, did you know, is anybody aware that Christianity is the largest multi-billion-dollar industry in the world? And I mean multi-billion as in B for billion. Yes, the largest multi-billion-dollar industry on the planet. Yes, it is indisputably the fact that it is the largest legal racketeering industry in the United States, in Africa, and in the Caribbean. It is indisputably, it is incontestably the fact that it brings in more money than the mafia, the online scammers, and all the Bitcoin conmen put together. Yes, it is irrefutably the fact that nobody can get away from these people once they get into your pocket and start gouging out your money. And it is also irrefutably the fact that the US government supports all governments, all democratic governments normally support and backs them in their skullduggery. And I'm going to tell you how. Let us begin with the simplest things that these persons do in the first place. What these preachers do. They use gimmicks. They use little gimmicks. One of the little gimmicks that they use is like holy water. You know, they get little water and say guzumaka or whatever over it. Or sometimes they just catch it at the pipe and put it in a bottle and sell it to you. Perfect scam. You know, they use consecrated olive oil. I mean, they just buy a gallon of olive oil at the shop, bottle it, put a little label on it, tell you that it is consecrated. And Bob's your uncle. They make thousands% of profit of each gallon of oil that they bottle and sell to you as holy olive oil, holy water, consecrated this and that. They even go further by getting, they can get 1 yard of cloth, a yard of say black cotton cloth, and they can cut that 1 yard of cloth into maybe 100 pieces. 100 pieces, maybe about 1 inch by 2 inch pieces. And they can sell you that little piece of cloth, tell you that it's, put it in your wallet and it makes you get money and give you this and luck and all of that. And they can sell you that piece of cloth for $250 or more for one little sliver of cloth the size of your index finger. And that's what they sell you. And they can earn any amount of money from that. And guess what? They pay, say, well, $250 for the piece of cloth. And then they can sell you, they cut it into 100 pieces, say roughly 100 pieces. And they can sell you each of those pieces for $200. Yeah? So think of how they're making money hand over fist, year in, year out, day in, day out. Yes, it is a business like any other business. And you know the good thing about this scam? The reward that the church members have been promised can only come after they are dead. Because what you're paying all this money for is salvation, to go to heaven, to be free of your sins. And you won't know if any of this even works until after you are dead. And in other words, you will never know. So it is the perfect scam. There is no other scam on earth like this, because you will keep offering money until the day you die, and still offering money and money and more money, and you'll never wake up. You'll never wake up. You will stay and give them your money until you die, and you die poor, you die destitute, and they remain richer and richer and richer. That's how the scam works. But generally speaking, that was generally speaking. Now let me go to Pastor Funderburk specifically. In March 2003, his dad, his father-in-law, which is Bishop L.W. Bolton Jr., he gave him chief executive officer of what you call it, a pseudo ministry or crypto ministry, quasi ministry, which is a parachurch organization he founded. You know, it's called Anointed One Ministries. Anointed One Ministry. That's it. And what does Anointed One Ministries do? This was owned by his mentor and soon to be father-in-law. This was in 2003. Its purpose was Ministry of Reconciliation. That's what his title is, and that's what the whole purpose of Anointed One Ministries was. The Ministry of Reconciliation. Now, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? We don't know. Reconcile what? With whom? For how long? And at what cost? Well, it is just another front set up to rob people. Now, he went on there until he married his mentor's daughter, who was a year older than him. Yes, he married her, and then they went off and they set up their own charity. Now, you have to understand how these charities work. Once you set up these charities, you get a whole lot of perks that no other industry on the planet can ever get. But let's look into the agency he set up for himself after he set up his church, his own church. He founded and incorporated in January 2020, and he became the CEO of His Hands Extended Community Outreach Center, and that's in Kansas City. Now, His Hands Extended Community Outreach Center, nobody knows what it did, nobody knows what it does, and nobody cared. Nobody cared. And you have got to understand why, and why it is so legal, right? He takes advantage of the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. This little clause that says freedom of religion. And this is an ironclad, unbreakable belief or position. Because of this, the government, and in particular the IRS, that's the Internal Revenue Service, that's the tax office. Yeah, the tax office, which is the IRS, has a hands-off approach to regulating churches. They will not, once you say you're a church, they will not regulate you. They don't care how much money you make. They don't care how much money you spend. They don't care anything about it at all once you call yourself a church. You can be church of the ripe mangoes. You can be church of the banana split. You don't even have to worship anything. You just call yourself a church. And it is so loose. For example, as long as an organization qualifies as a church, it does not even have to apply for a tax exemption. Tax exemption is automatic once you call yourself a church. Yes. There is this one, and we might remember this, and you guys can look it up. I saw this some years ago where this particular church, it was just some guys who wanted to smoke marijuana. And they decided that, well, the law was coming down on them because they were in a state where the law come down on marijuana smokers. And what they did, they just formed a church. And once they formed a church, the church was formed in one of the guys' living room. He just put a little pulpit, get some board boxes, create a little pulpit, and they go out there and as church service, they just go in the guy's living room and smoke as much marijuana as they wanted. And the government knew about it and couldn't touch them because under the clause, it's their religion and they're free to have their religion and this is their church and you just don't mess with a church. Yes, American laws are that silly. This is what these people get away with by forming churches. So any crook, any conman, any rapist, any flim-flam artist can simply get out of prison tomorrow and form a church, say he is reformed, and then he can get all the perks that is possible because the government will not touch. It's totally taboo in the United States to touch any individual or any organization that is a church or that falls under a church aegis. Yes. So, but it is even worse than that because churches do not have to file the dreaded Form 990 or the Form 990 easy. You see, this is the annual information form that all other non-profit organizations in the United States are compelled to file and which you can even go to prison for if you're a charity. But once the charity is a part of a church, you are free to do whatever you want. That's how United States laws are run. Now, here are some of the tricks that they use. They claim when they form these charities, they say it's for counseling services, to run substance abuse programs, summer camps for kids, food banks, marriage seminars, community outreach services, crisis pregnancy services, anti-sex trafficking activities, spiritual mentoring, overseas projects, and they can tell the government all these things that they're doing. And the government actually helps to fund them. Yes, the government actually helps to fund them. Yeah, but the thing with the government funding them is that the government does not actually look to see what they are doing with the money because the government does not care. They say they are doing this and they are not accountable to anyone for anything. Basically, in the practical sense, that is how it goes. Yeah? So, believe me, the greatest tax havens in the world are not in the Cayman Islands or in any other country that they say you can stack money. The greatest tax haven in the world is the churches in the United States of America. That is incontrovertibly the fact. And I tell anybody to come and dispute that, bring some evidence to show me that they are not the real tax haven. That's where all the money is sunk off, all the ill-gotten gains in the church, in the pockets of ministers. Because, and here is how easy it is. The greatest, there are no federal, state, or property taxes because once it's church property, you don't pay no taxes on that. And the church rectory where the preacher lives, you don't pay no tax on that. You know? And there's no oversight body for churches. So you see how easy it is to rob and flim-flam and con and get away with everything? Just call yourself a preacher and go about it and you're good. Let me say this also. One of the most dreaded organization in the United States is the Fair Trade Commission. It is one of the most powerful, most invasive, and brutal federal administrative apparatus in the US. Yet it cannot even bring an investigation, not even an investigation, into the activities of any church, much less to make any pronouncement or even suggest any policy changes to how any religious organization is run. This is the same Fair Trading Commission. Yeah? This is the Fair Trading Commission that hits down on banks and all financial institutions across the United States and regulates and regulate them and see that they are dealing fairly. This is the same plenipotentiary FTC that come down hard on multi-billion companies like Google and Facebook and so on. For example, just last year, Google was fined $170 million for the simple oversight of violating children's privacy. Now, this was violating children's privacy is so vague and weird that it doesn't say much. Although I know there might have been some breach, but these tiny breaches, and they were charged $170 million, and they cannot touch a church, no matter what. No matter what. It's now, yet we see the ironclad constraints of federal law. It dare not touch a church. Now, here's another way they make their money. So they get government grants, and then what another thing they'll do, they will have this thing that they call parsonage allowance. Now, the parsonage allowance is a broad series of money that the pastor can get. It is non-taxable, it is uncapped, and it's payable even if the person own and reside in his own home rent-free. So if he says his parsonage allowance is $100 a month or $1 million a day, that's his parsonage allowance. You just allow him to take whatever he wants. That is his right as pastor, and that is allowed under United States law. So you see how evil United States laws work against ordinary people and help preachers to rob ordinary citizens. Now, another thing they do, they form learning institutions and put these learning institutions under the aegis of the church. So they place these either on the church compound, these schools, on the church compound, and when they place it on the church compound, they then get staff from among the church members, and if they don't take church member, and if they have if they haven't got the qualified staff in the church, they will seek outside. But anybody who they're going to be employing, they will actually have them join the church. And you might wonder, so why these people have to join the church if they are just coming to work in the church school? Here's the thing. Remember the 10% tithes? Now, if they have 20, 30, 40, 50 members of staff, of school staff, they make sure that when they pay them the salary, they still get a kickback of 10%. Yes, so you see how churches in the United States are run. Now, this is an expose, and if there's any church who can tell me that this is not legal in America, they can always come and say that, because everything goes back to their pocket. Now, as we can say, this is how the church works, this is how they get rich, and this is how this parasite takes over people's life and offer nothing but a presumed salvation after you are dead. Now, guys, like, share, and please, if you know anybody who could do with this kind of information, just please send it off to them and let them see if they can wake up. And if they want to dispute it, fine, go ahead and dispute. And let me know. And if I'm wrong in anything I said, I am willing to come back and apologize and build another post to spread this new information and stand corrected. Thank you very much for listening, and take care of yourself, and see you in my next video.